There are moments in a man's life that do not announce themselves loudly, yet they divide everything that comes after. This is one of them. You did not arrive here by accident, and you will not hear these words again in quite the same state of mind. Most men stumble past their turning point without recognizing it. They are looking for fireworks, for applause, for sudden certainty. But the true signal arrives quietly, often when a man is tired of drifting, weary of half results, and no longer willing to live beneath his capacity. Let me ask you something, and do not answer quickly. Have you noticed how the same ideas have been returning to you lately? The same questions, the same dissatisfaction, the same sense that something is about to align, even if you cannot yet name it. That repetition is not coincidence, it is preparation. Right before everything clicks, confusion increases, pressure tightens, old habits stop working, familiar comforts feel hollow. It is the mind's way of shedding an identity that can no longer carry what is coming next. Most men misread this stage and retreat. They think something is wrong. They assume they are failing. In truth, they are standing at the edge of comprehension. One insight properly understood can reorganize a lifetime of effort. This is why you are here now, not earlier, not later. You would not have heard this message before. Your mind was not yet disciplined enough to receive it. And if you had waited longer, you might have explained it away as mere motivation. There is a law at work just before great wealth appears in a man's life. It does not begin with money. It begins with clarity, a sudden, irreversible shift from wishing to knowing, from scattered effort to definite direction. The man who becomes a millionaire does not stumble into wealth unawares. He crosses an inner threshold first. His thinking changes, his standards rise, his tolerance for drift collapses. The world looks the same, but he no longer does. Notice what is happening to you as you listen. This is not excitement, it is recognition. Something inside you is lining up with something you already suspected but never fully trusted. Many men will hear these words and move on unchanged. They were not meant for them. But for a few, this message lands at precisely the right moment, when the old explanations no longer satisfy and the new path is about to reveal itself. That is what a sign feels like. It does not shout, it resonates. In the moments before everything clicks, life removes distractions and brings you face to face with ideas you cannot ignore. It places you in front of the principle you must understand next, the decision you must make, the discipline you must accept. Do not rush, do not skim. Listen as though your future depends on what you grasp here, because it does. The difference between those who merely dream of wealth and those who claim it is often a single realization properly acted upon. If you stay with this message, you will see why so many men were close to success and never knew it. You will understand why timing is not about clocks, but about readiness. And when it finally clicks, you will look back at this moment and recognize it for what it was. Not entertainment, not coincidence, but a quiet marker on the road to fortune. For some men, this is just another speech. For others, it is the sign they see right before everything changes. There comes a time in every man's journey when progress ceases to look like progress. The horizon appears unchanged. His efforts seem unanswered. He feels as though the very laws of industry he trusted have turned against him. Yet this, my friend, is not failure. It is the silent interval that separates the sowing of the seed from the reaping of the harvest. It is the unseen calibration of character, where a man is tested to see if he can support the weight of the fortune that approaches. Before every great advancement, there is a period of doubt. Before every illumination, there is the darkness of the cellar. This is the law of transformation. The mind must be emptied of its former, smaller identity before it can receive the responsibilities of the new. The man who mistakes this period of reorganization for defeat loses the very prize that was forming for him. Those who endure this stage with faith discover that what appeared as delay was in truth the necessary strengthening of the foundations. Think carefully on this. The seed must appear to decay before the sprout can emerge. No man calls the buried acorn a failure, yet most men declare themselves defeated when their own progress goes underground. They do not see that the empire of business first hides what it intends to multiply. Every great success begins in obscurity. The roots of mastery form in silence, while the impatient and the weak-willed dig up their future every morning to check if it has grown. At the moment before change, life withdraws your comfort and your certainty. It narrows your focus to the single path ahead. This constriction feels like loss, but it is a refinement of purpose. You cannot carry indecision or the habits of a salaried clerk into the realm of great wealth. Therefore, the unnecessary is removed by force when it is not surrendered by choice. I have observed that frustration is often the final test before the click of awareness. It is the mind's protest against its own expansion. When your present methods no longer suffice, rejoice. The signal is clear. You are ready for a new order of thinking. The same force that once guided your small successes now demands that you outgrow them to grasp something grander. Observe the pattern in all men who have truly risen. Consider the humble telegraph boy or the clerk at the ledger. They did not leap to the top. They were squeezed through the narrow gate of discipline. What once fit your life now becomes restrictive, not because it is wrong, but because you are being prepared for greater authority and wider service. The path to wealth is not paved with ease, but with the correction of errors. We learn not from our triumphs, but from the moments when we are brought face to face with our limitations and choose to surpass them. The moment you feel least certain is often the moment just before comprehension dawns. Doubt is merely the shadow of a new understanding. It precedes clarity as the night precedes the dawn. The majority of men retreat when this pressure intensifies. They interpret resistance as a sign to stop. They assume their efforts were misdirected, and they run off to start again elsewhere, chasing some new opportunity. Each time they approach the threshold of transformation, they flee from the heat of the furnace. Thus they spend decades circling the same mountain of possibility, never realizing that the summit lay just one more step through the storm of their own making. Success does not withhold its hand, it withholds premature reward. It will not grant power to the divided mind, nor riches to the unready hand. Before you may receive an increase in your external world, your internal order must match the magnitude of what you seek. This alignment cannot be forced by frantic labor. It must mature through patience and service. And the only way maturity is produced is through the trial of being tested in the dark. When you feel weary of mediocrity, when the familiar comforts of a safe life begin to disgust you, that is the sign that the law of success has begun its work. The very restlessness you condemn in yourself is proof that you are being summoned higher. Every desire for refinement is evidence of readiness. When the fire of dissatisfaction burns in the heart, it does not intend to destroy you, it intends to purify you of the salaried mind. Men speak often of inspiration, but seldom of the exhaustion that comes from outgrowing oneself. Yet that exhaustion is the truest indicator that the old cycle has completed. The body tires when the mind resists its destiny. When you no longer find energy in what once fulfilled you, it is not laziness, it is life withdrawing permission from your old patterns. You are being asked to ascend. The period before the breakthrough is marked by a strange contradiction. On the surface, you seem to lose momentum. Beneath, you are gaining a foundation that can hold a skyscraper. Outer results seem absent, while inner discipline strengthens. The impatient curse this paradox. The wise man endures it. He understands that the roots of the oak are invisible long before the branches rise to the sky. The unseen always governs the seen. Stillness is not stagnation, it is the gathering of invisible power. The ocean pauses between waves, yet that pause is full of the weight of the deep. So too does your mind, when quieted of its petty fears, reorganize itself for the click of fortune. If your life has grown quiet, if opportunities seem few, do not mistake it for abandonment. It is concentration. I have spoken with men on the edge of the highest success who confessed they felt most lost just before the light broke. They described nights of doubt where they wondered if they had been fools to dream so big. Yet when they persisted through this strange emptiness, the results came suddenly, as if the world had been holding its breath, waiting for them to prove their endurance. Thomas Edison did not find his light by luck. He found it by refusing to let thousands of failures interpret themselves as the end. Every attempt was merely an instruction on how not to build the future. Learn to observe the recurrence of your thoughts. When the same grand idea, the same calls to service, and the same visions of a better way return to you uninvited, it is no longer coincidence. It is the whisper of the infinite calling you to order. The man who dismisses these recurring inspirations as mere dreams prolongs his own delay. The one who heeds them as commands shortens his journey by years. There is a spiritual physics to readiness. Energy must condense before it can express. Just as steam must be contained to move an engine, your scattered desires must be condensed into a single, definite purpose before they become tangible success. Recognize the symptoms of your arrival. They are not external victories yet, but internal shifts. An impatience with trivial talk, a disgust for idle company, a new and profound respect for the value of an hour. These are not signs of isolation, they are proofs of awakening. The soul, withdrawing from distraction, is preparing for direction. The greatest deception of the mediocre is comfort. It disguises itself as peace while secretly dulling the edge of your character. The moment life begins to sharpen your discomfort, it is saving you from a slow decline into a common life. That pressure you resent today will become the very foundation of your gratitude tomorrow. Understand this. You cannot carry old attachments, old grudges, or old fears into new dimensions of power. Every loss you experience in this stage is a clearing of space for expansion. The wise man does not mourn the pruning of the vine, he anticipates the harvest. The difference between those who rise and those who repeat their failures lies entirely in their interpretation of the darkness. Both endure delay, both feel doubt. The difference is that one calls it a punishment and quits, while the other calls it preparation and continues. You may test this truth in your own life. Recall the times you thought all progress had stopped, only to realize later those were the seasons when your character was being forged. Success is never withheld. It is merely delayed until you have the character to handle it without being ruined by it. When the thrill of shallow ambition fades and only a deep moral purpose remains, you are near your turning point. The man who still chases excitement is not ready for the responsibility of 1,000,000, but the one who has replaced emotion with a steady decision is ready for fortune. The flame that burns hottest is the most controlled. Remember the principle of the dawn. Just before the sun rises, the darkness seems most absolute. The air is still and the world is quiet. Then, without warning, the light pierces the horizon, revealing that the dawn had been preparing all along behind the curve of the earth. So it is with your destiny. Your heaviest moments precede your highest. The pressure of the darkness is the proof that the light is near. Do not flee the silence. Sit within it until the understanding rises. You are being prepared for the wealth, the power, and the peace that await the man who understands the law and obeys it. There is a moment when a man ceases to wander, not because the world becomes clearer, but because his mind does.
The fog of hesitation, that subtle poison which kills more dreams than failure ever could, finally lifts, and what remains is one idea so strong, so certain, that all lesser possibilities dissolve before it. This moment is the birth of definiteness, and from it springs every fortune ever created. Men speak of luck, talent, or timing. They are deceived. The unseen cause of all achievement is the concentration of the mind upon one single definite object. The universe itself moves in harmony with the definite. Stars follow fixed orbits, seasons obey a precise order. Even the tides of the sea reveal a pattern of law. Only man, endowed with the divine gift of thought, dares to live indefinitely, drifting like a ship without a rudder, and therefore he suffers indefinitely. Life rewards decision and punishes drift. The drifter speaks of many desires, but obeys none. He reads, plans, and dreams endlessly, but his will is divided. Each day he plants a new seed of ambition and waters none long enough for it to take root. He wonders why his field remains barren, never realizing that he has turned the soil too often for any harvest to begin. The man who decides, however, converts his scattered energy into a steady flame. His focus becomes heat, his effort becomes light, and nature herself bends to his order. You cannot possess what you have not first chosen. Decision is ownership in the unseen realm. Before any visible gain, there must be a settled claim within the soul. The world does not answer to the man who tries, it answers to the one who declares, "It shall be so." In that declaration, he establishes command over his own mind, and the mind governs everything else. Look about you and observe the captains of industry. Men of mediocre talent often rise above those of genius, not because they know more, but because they decided sooner. They did not wait for perfect conditions or for the fireworks of sudden certainty. They moved while others deliberated. Decision converts waiting into movement, movement into habit, and habit into mastery. It is the one act that turns invisible faith into visible form. I have often said that the man who starts out with the fixed idea that he will be a master in his own department of effort is already halfway to the goal. Consider the history of the great enterprises. They did not begin with vast capital. They began with a single, definite purpose in the mind of a man who refused to be turned aside. When I was a young messenger boy, I did not merely hope to be successful. I decided to master the telegraph. I practiced until the sounds became a language I could speak in my sleep. That definiteness allowed me to see opportunities where others saw only a day's labor. Infinite intelligence responds swiftly to the definite. Delay belongs only to the vague. How many men waste their power through divided attention? They chase multiple aims, all half believed in, none fully claimed. But the moment a man selects one purpose and burns all bridges of retreat, his energy returns in torrents. A mind cannot hold faith and doubt in equal measure. One must rule the other, and your decision determines which shall sit upon the throne. The man who finally says, "Enough, I will no longer live halfway," becomes magnetized. People, ideas, and opportunities begin moving towards him, drawn by the gravity of his conviction. Others call it coincidence. It is not. It is the law of attraction in the empire of business. Infinite intelligence organizes itself around a definite mind. You may have noticed that life tests a man's seriousness before promoting him. The test is distraction. The moment you set a definite aim, 1,000 lesser opportunities appear. They glitter with safety, with the approval of friends, and with immediate comfort. Their purpose is to expose your loyalty to your vision. Only when you reject the good can you grasp the great. Decision, therefore, is not merely saying yes to your purpose. It is saying a resolute no to everything else. The word maybe is the language of failure. It is a verbal fog that hides indecision behind politeness. Maybe has destroyed more potential than poverty ever did. Replace it with I will. Every time you speak with uncertainty, you instruct your subconscious mind to remain passive. Every time you speak with decisiveness, you awaken its sleeping power. Your words are commands to the unseen forces that shape your destiny. Choose them as a general chooses his orders. My own rise began not with a gift of money, but with a single decision to focus my efforts on one industry and one industry alone. While others debated which field might prove most profitable, I fixed my mind upon steel and refused all distraction. Competitors laughed and experts predicted ruin, but a definite purpose creates its own environment. When the storms of financial panic come, the undecided are the first to fall. Definiteness builds a faith that acts as an anchor. It creates familiarity in the mind with the result desired. The subconscious believes what it hears repeatedly with emotion. When you affirm your purpose daily, writing it, speaking it, and acting upon it, it ceases to be a mere hope and becomes your very identity. The man who repeats, "I am destined for success in this aim," long enough begins to act, speak, and decide as that successful man would. This is the law of autosuggestion, the tool by which thought becomes flesh. Write your purpose down, not as a wish, but as a decree. State it clearly and affirm it daily. Read it aloud each morning with the feeling of a conqueror. Read it again each night before you surrender to sleep. Let your imagination clothe the idea with reality until you can see and touch the result in your mind. This repetition will educate your subconscious far more deeply than any book learning ever could. The world belongs to the man who knows exactly what he wants and refuses to accept anything less. A definite purpose acts as a filter for reality. It selects useful information and discards the trivial. The drifter drowns in options because he has no filter. Every passing wind catches his sail. The decided man sees only the paths that lead to his end. This saves him decades of wandering. Every yes becomes strategic. Every no becomes a liberation. True confidence is simply clarity without apology. The decisive man does not need to boast. His calmness unnerves the uncertain, for he reminds them of their own hesitation. People follow him instinctively, for nature itself follows order. Translating this purpose into action requires a discipline that most men shun. A definite aim must express itself in definite labor. Choose one essential act each day that advances you towards your goal and do it without delay. Definite action reinforces definite thought, and together they build an irresistible momentum. When decision governs your schedule, procrastination loses its voice. Remember this: every decision you make reorganizes the unseen forces of the world. When you decide this shall be done, your mind begins to attract the resources needed to fulfill the command. The man who waits for evidence before deciding will wait forever. You must burn the bridges behind your indecision. Say to yourself, "I have chosen. I do not retreat." Speak it until the very nerves of your body accept it as fact. You will notice a quiet power replacing your old anxiety. That is the peace of finality, the calm born of having no alternative but forward. One clearly defined purpose outperforms 100 vague ambitions. A single torch lights the night. 1,000 scattered sparks fade into the cold. Focus your mind until your purpose becomes a lens through which your energy burns into form.
No man can build a lasting fortune while divided within himself. The hand may labor, the tongue may speak, but if the heart hesitates, all motion becomes wasted energy. To think one thing, feel another, and do a third is the silent ruin of all ambition. The universe does not reward activity, it rewards harmony. When the mind, the emotion, and the action move as one, the law of compensation begins to operate with mathematical precision. You have seen men who work endlessly yet advance nowhere. They toil with visible effort, but something within them cancels their progress. They plan with the intellect, but they doubt with the emotion. They act while secretly expecting defeat. And so, no matter how hard they labor, life reflects their internal contradiction. The seed of their work is divided, half faith, half fear, and nature multiplies both. Alignment begins not with action, but with inner government. You cannot control circumstances until you first control self. The mind must be the ruler, emotion the servant, and action the soldier that obeys both. When thought commands and emotion supports, action becomes powerful, steady, and accurate. But when emotion commands, thought loses its clarity, and action becomes erratic. The man who rules himself rules circumstance. He does not demand that the world be calm. He becomes calm and causes the world to respond. His composure is his greatest asset. While others flail against conditions, he directs energy from within. Infinite intelligence recognizes him as a conductor of power because he imitates its order. To align your forces, begin with thought. Thought is the architect. It sketches the structure of your life. But thought alone cannot build. It requires emotion for vitality. Emotion is the heat that hardens the idea into belief. Without emotion, thought remains cold and lifeless. Yet emotion without control becomes wildfire. It burns opportunity instead of forging it. Therefore, balance is law. Intellect designs, emotion fuels, action completes. I have watched men of great industry fail because they could not master their own tempers. They allowed a moment's irritation to shatter a year's negotiation. They lacked that personal relation with themselves that is necessary before one can manage relations with others. The divided man destroys himself through inner argument. He prays for success while rehearsing defeat in his imagination. He speaks of faith while expecting delay. He performs duties with a half-hearted conviction, and so his results arrive half-formed and fleeting. The law does not respond to noise, it responds to unity. Begin each morning with a command of thought. Say to yourself, I govern my mind. My feelings serve my aim. My actions express my faith. Repeat this until rhythm replaces doubt. If your emotion rebels, repeat it again. The subconscious learns through repetition, not persuasion. Every time you assert control, you strengthen the inner hierarchy of power. Your speech must also align with your vision. Words are not ornaments, they are forces. Each careless remark undermines your belief. Each negative confession rewires the subconscious against you. Never say, I am trying, say, I am doing. Thought is the blueprint, speech is the cement. Silence, too, is a form of alignment. When the mind is quiet, the still, small voice of intuition can be heard. The greatest men of industry often pause in solitude to listen. I have known those who would withdraw from the heat of a boardroom to walk in silence, returning only when their inner discord had been settled. They trusted the voice within, for they knew law speaks only to calm minds. To master alignment, observe your emotional climate. How quickly do you yield to fear or resentment? Every such yielding is a leak of power. Emotional discipline is the highest form of self-control. A calm man is never weak. He is charged with restrained power. Passion under command is more dangerous to failure than 10 armies of frantic effort. Faith and fear are incompatible tenets. You must expel one so the other may move in. You cannot build wealth while secretly fearing poverty. Align your thought and your feeling, and the law has no choice but to obey. The daily ritual of alignment requires both intention and inspection. Each evening, review the day without self-condemnation. Observe where emotion rebelled or thought scattered. Correct the error in your mind before you sleep. This practice refines your inner order until steadiness becomes your natural state. You will notice a transformation in how others respond to you. Your eyes will grow steadier. Your movements will carry purpose. People will begin deferring to your calmness. They will sense in you an authority born of self-command. Do not mistake stillness for inaction. The most powerful motion begins in silence. The archer pauses before release. The wave gathers before breaking. When you cultivate inner calm, your outer strikes gain precision. Rash action betrays division. Purposeful action confirms unity. The world calls this magnetism, but it is simply the confidence expressed through harmony. The leader who walks into a room and quiets confusion does so because his own confusion has been conquered. People feel safe in the presence of inner order. They will follow the man who radiates it even before they understand his plan. Align within, and you will find that what you seek begins seeking you. Plans unfold without force. People assist without being asked. This is not magic, it is synchronization. You have adjusted your internal rhythm to match the universal rhythm. The secret is not in doing more. It is in doing all things in greater agreement with yourself.
There is a rhythm to all achievement, a law that rewards consistent, definite action sustained by unwavering belief. Time itself bends around conviction. To most men, success appears slow because their faith flickers. They believe, then doubt, then believe again. They plant, uproot, and replant the same seed. Law cannot bless inconsistency. But once faith becomes constant, once the inner conviction remains fixed regardless of appearances, results accelerate as though time itself were compressed. Faith is not blind trust, it is the directed understanding of cause and effect. When a man unites his thought, emotion, and effort under one belief, he creates a continuity of vibration. Continuity is the secret of speed. Imagine a great flywheel in a factory. It requires immense effort to start, but once it moves without interruption, its own momentum carries it faster with each revolution. The same law governs the mind. Most men destroy their own rhythm. They work faithfully for a week, then succumb to discouragement. Each doubt acts as friction, slowing the wheel. Each complaint is sand in the mechanism. They cannot see that the delay they blame on circumstances was born within their own hearts. The wise never interrupt the rhythm of their faith. You must understand this principle deeply. Belief is cumulative. Its power multiplies with repetition. Each day of continued confidence doubles the potency of yesterday's thought. Each refusal to doubt compounds like interest in a savings bank. Eventually, the accumulated energy crosses a threshold, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. This is why some men toil for years with little to show, and then suddenly everything unfolds at once. The world calls it luck. It is law matured. I recall the story of the man who gave up his search for gold when he was but 3 feet from the great vein. He stopped because the resistance of the earth grew too great. He sold his machinery for a pittance to a junk man who had the sense to seek expert counsel. That junk man found the gold exactly where the other had abandoned his persistence. Quitting restarts the clock of destiny, while persistence compounds every effort already made. Every stroke of work, even the ones that seem wasted, adds to the invisible bank of momentum. When faith is maintained, no action is lost. The bamboo tree teaches this law perfectly. For years after planting, there is no visible growth above the soil. The farmer waters and waits, mocked by those who see no progress. Then suddenly, within weeks, the bamboo shoots upward, growing feet in a single day. Did the miracle happen overnight? No, it was occurring underground all along. The root system was expanding, storing power until release became irresistible. So it is with your purpose. When nothing seems to happen, everything is happening. Beneath the surface, the law is gathering energy and preparing opportunity. Impatience interrupts the process. Faith completes it. The man who keeps working, speaking, and expecting as though results already exist shortens the distance between cause and effect. He is obeying the law of acceleration.
Consider the great pioneers of industry, men like Henry Ford or the builders of the railroads. They were ridiculed and opposed, yet they persisted. Their engineers often declared their goals impossible, but they commanded, "Build it anyway." They repeated the command until by sheer faith translated into action, the impossible became mechanical fact. Faith compressed years of experimentation into a single discovery because their belief never paused. Faith is movement without hesitation. It transforms waiting into gestation. It allows the mind to occupy the result before the body achieves it. When you think, speak, and act as if success is already complete, your very nervous system organizes around that truth. Your decisions become sharper, your endurance longer, your presence more convincing. The world begins to mirror your inner certainty. Time obeys conviction because conviction eliminates waste. The doubtful man spends half his hours in reconsideration. The decided man acts, and his focus multiplies his productivity. A single week of his work equals a year of ordinary effort. Understand the physics of faith. Energy follows attention. The more steadily you apply it, the denser it becomes. Repetition condenses thought into form. This is why you must speak your purpose aloud each day, not as a ritual, but as a concentration of force. Every repetition is a stroke of the hammer forging your reality. Stop swinging and the metal cools. Persist and it bends to your will. Patience is not waiting idly, it is sustained obedience to rhythm. The man of faith works as steadily on the 1,000th day as he did on the first, knowing that the law may delay to test his endurance, but it cannot deny him. The invisible curve of progress fools the impatient. Results accumulate slowly at first, then exponentially. The final leap appears sudden, but it is built upon 10,000 unseen increments. Persistence converts resistance into direction. Every morning you must act as though your enterprise is destined for success. Dress, speak, and labor from that premise. Each detail performed in faith aligns in visible cooperation. When fatigue tempts you to abandon your structure, remind yourself, routine is proof of belief. Chaos is proof of doubt. Rhythm is stronger than frantic speed. When your effort flows steadily, obstacles dissolve quietly. Do not confuse rest with quitting. True rest is rhythm's counterpart. It renews energy to sustain continuity. Always rest as a master after a day's conquest, never as a deserter seeking escape. Infinite intelligence blesses faith under motion. The man who waits for confidence before acting will never begin. Confidence comes after proof, and proof comes after action. Start before you are certain, for certainty is produced by movement. The law of compounding favors the continuous. Every day you persist, you shorten the journey. The most dangerous illusion is that you have more time. The truth is, time rewards only the prepared. Yet here lies the mercy of law. Once you align belief with action, lost time is reclaimed. Opportunities once missed reappear in improved form. Life condenses the reward of 10 scattered years into one season of decisiveness. The sun does not rush, yet it accomplishes everything. The river does not strain, yet it wears away stone. Follow the order of nature.
The accumulation of wealth and the achievement of standing in the empire of business require a mastery of the law of cooperation. No man can rise to great heights alone. He who attempts to carry the entire burden of an enterprise upon his own shoulders will soon find his progress arrested by the limitations of his own physical strength and the span of his own hours. Cooperation and mutual trust are not merely moral virtues, they are the gears and levers that multiply results beyond the capacity of any individual. When a group of men coordinate their efforts toward a definite end, they create a mastermind, a third force, invisible but potent, that guides the collective toward a fortune that none could claim in isolation. I have often said that I owe my own success to the men I associated with, many of whom were much cleverer than myself. My specialty was not the technical knowledge of steel, but the knowledge of men and the ability to organize them into a harmonious whole. The secret of the great manager is to discover the particular aptitude of each associate and to place him where that aptitude can be fully exercised for the common good. Trust is the cement of this structure. Without it, the finest machinery of commerce will grind to a halt. The employer who treats his workmen as mere hands rather than as partners in a great endeavor invites the friction of resentment that eventually erodes his profits and his peace. Consider the mechanics of a great industry. It is like a vast bridge where every rivet and every beam must support its allotted share of the weight. If one part fails, the whole structure is imperiled. Therefore, the wise leader does not seek to dominate, but to inspire. He understands the personal relation in industry, that the human element is the soul of the business. By fostering a spirit of cooperation, he transforms a collection of individuals into a single, irresistible force. In such an environment, the success of the enterprise becomes the personal success of every man involved. This is the only basis upon which a lasting fortune can be built, for wealth that is extracted through the oppression of others carries within it the seeds of its own destruction. To attract the cooperation of others, one must first prove himself worthy of trust. This begins with the slow, patient mastery of one's own department. Financial independence is not a sudden leap. It is earned through service and the demonstration of character. The young man who is eager to rise must first become indispensable in his present position. He must do more than is required of him, not for the sake of the immediate wage, but to cultivate the habit of excellence. This surplus of service is the seed of future promotion. It signals to the world that he is ready for greater responsibility. I have observed that the most successful men are those who have learned to make the interests of their associates their own. They do not hoard ideas or credit. They distribute both freely, knowing that the more they give, the more they receive in return. This is the law of increase in action. When you help another man to succeed, you are strengthening the very system that supports your own advancement. The man who seeks to rise by pulling others down is violating the fundamental order of the universe. He may gain a temporary advantage, but he will never achieve the serene and enduring success that comes to the man who builds upon the foundation of mutual benefit. In the quiet of your reflections, examine your relationships. Are you a source of strength and inspiration to those around you? Do you seek to understand the needs and aspirations of your associates? The man who masters the art of cooperation will find that doors open to him that remain closed to the selfish and the solitary. He will discover that the world is eager to assist him, for his success brings success to all who are touched by his influence. This is the click of social alignment, where your personal purpose merges with the needs of the community, creating a momentum that no individual effort can match.
In the empire of business, there is a fundamental law that many young men overlook in their haste to reach the summit. Financial independence is a fortress built stone by stone through service, patience, and the mastery of one's craft. The man who seeks to leap into wealth without the steady climb of character is like one who builds a castle upon shifting sands. It may glitter for a season, but it will not withstand the storms of financial panic or the tests of time. True success is a slow growth, much like the sturdy oak, and its strength lies in the depth of its roots. The first rule for any man who wishes to rise is to realize that his current position, however humble, is his laboratory of leadership.
Whether you are a clerk at a ledger or a laborer in the mills, your duty is to perform your task so well that the eye of your employer cannot help but rest upon you. I have often said that the man who does only what he is paid for is never paid for more than he does. It is the surplus of service, the extra hour spent mastering the details, the initiative taken to improve a process, the unwavering reliability in small things that constitutes the only honest claim to promotion. Patience is the partner of industry. In our modern age, there is a temptation to seek shortcuts and sudden windfalls. I tell you, such gains are often more dangerous than poverty, for they rob a man of the discipline required to keep what he has won. Money that comes easily usually goes easily, leaving behind a man unfit for honest toil. Financial independence is earned slowly because the man must grow alongside his fortune. You must learn the value of a dollar by earning it through useful service before you can be trusted to manage $1 million for the benefit of the community. Mastery of one's department is the only sure path to authority. The man who knows more about his specific branch of business than any other man is the man who eventually commands that department. Do not scatter your energies, concentrate them. If you are in the oil trade, know oil from the well to the lamp. If you are in steel, understand the ore, the furnace, and the market. This concentration of intelligence creates a capital of knowledge that no bank failure can deplete. When you combine this mastery with the habit of thrift, saving a portion of all you earn to invest in the very industry you serve, you are no longer an employee, you are a burgeoning capitalist. Character is the ultimate currency of the successful. In my long experience, I have found that the men who lasted, the men who built empires that outlived them, were men whose word was as good as their bond. They understood that cooperation and trust multiply results. A man may be clever, he may be industrious, but if he cannot be trusted by his associates, he is a broken link in the industrial chain. Mastery, therefore, includes the mastery of self, the ability to remain calm under pressure, to be fair in all dealings, and to treat every man, from the office boy to the president, with the respect due to a fellow citizen in the Republic of Labor. In the empire of business, the most dangerous illusion is the belief that success is a matter of cleverness or sharp practice. I tell you, a man may be as shrewd as the devil himself, but if he lacks a moral foundation, his fortune is but a house of cards. Character is the only collateral that never depreciates. The true captain of industry is not a gambler. He is a man of honor who understands that every transaction must leave both parties better than they were before. This is the spiritual law of the ledger. Wealth that is not rooted in service is merely a debt to be repaid with interest. You must cultivate a deep and abiding respect for the power of your own word. In the early days of the steel trade, contracts were often sealed with a handshake. If a man's word was found wanting, no amount of capital could restore his standing among his peers. To be trusted is a greater compliment than to be praised. This trust is the invisible currency of the mastermind. When you align yourself with men of high character, your combined power is not merely added, it is multiplied by the square of your mutual confidence. Cooperation is the lever, but integrity is the fulcrum upon which it rests. Mastery of one's environment begins with the mastery of one's impulses. I have seen many a promising career wrecked upon the shoals of intemperance or the desire for easy money. The young man who wishes to rise must be a total abstainer of everything that clouds the judgment or weakens the will. The mind is a delicate instrument. It requires the fuel of high purpose and the lubrication of calm thought. When you allow passion or resentment to dictate your actions, you are handing the reins of your destiny to a drunken driver.
Character is the governor of the human engine, ensuring that energy is expended with precision and never in wasteful bursts. Service is the only honest way to draw from the bank of life. Before you ask for an increase in wages or a share in the profits, ask yourself, what surplus have I created for my fellow man? The law of compensation is as immutable as the law of gravity. If you give more in service than you receive in pay, the universe becomes your debtor. It must, by its very nature, balance the account. This is the secret of the self-made man. He does not wait for opportunity to find him. He creates it by becoming so useful that the world cannot do without him. Patience in this service is the mark of the master. Financial independence is not an end in itself. It is a means to a higher service. The man who hoards his wealth like a miser is a prisoner of his own success. True fulfillment comes from the realization that you are a trustee of the community's resources. As I have stated in the Gospel of Wealth, the man who dies rich dies disgraced, not because riches are evil, but because he has failed in his duty to use those riches for the elevation of the race. Your character is measured not by what you accumulate, but by the wisdom and spirit with which you distribute. When you reach this understanding, the click of success becomes a call to a wider and more noble field of action.
I call upon you now to take the first step in the sanctuary of your own mind. Do not wait for a change in the markets or a sign from your superiors. The captain of industry is first a captain of his own soul. If you seek to be a master in the empire of business, you must begin this very hour to treat your life as a sacred trust. Go to your room, sit in the silence, and write upon a clean sheet of paper the one definite object you intend to achieve. Bind yourself to it with an oath that knows no retreat. This is your call to action. Cease being a passenger in the vessel of drift and take the helm. The world stands aside for the man who knows where he is going. Success is a process of unfolding, not a sudden event. When a man has mastered the laws of definiteness, alignment, and persistence, he enters the final preparation for stewardship. You must understand that wealth is a power, and like all powers, it is subject to the law of use. If it is not used for the elevation of the race, it becomes a curse to the possessor. I have seen many men accumulate millions only to find their souls shriveled in the process. They neglected the personal relation with their fellow man and forgot that the highest happiness is found in being useful. True mastery includes the mastery of one's own environment through the spirit of cooperation. You will find that as you rise, the nature of your labor changes. You move from the management of things to the leadership of men. This requires a patience that the salaried mind can never comprehend. You must learn to see the potential in others and to provide them with the opportunity to rise alongside you. A great enterprise is a partnership of hearts and minds. When you create an environment where every man feels he is an essential part of the whole, you have built a fortress that no competitor can breach. Character remains the bedrock of this entire structure. In the heat of competition, there is a temptation to take advantage, to practice the sharp deal, or to forget the dictates of honor. I tell you, resist this with every fiber of your being. A fortune won at the cost of one's integrity is a loss in the final accounting. The man who is fair, who is just, and who is generous even in his struggle is the man whom the law of compensation will ultimately crown. Integrity is not a burden. It is the armor that protects your peace of mind and ensures the permanence of your success. As you approach the threshold where everything clicks, you will notice a change in your vibration. You will no longer feel the need to shout or to prove your worth.
Your presence will carry the weight of your achievements. This is the stage of quiet authority. You have learned that the invisible governs the visible, and you act accordingly. You move with the deliberate pace of one who knows that the harvest is certain. This inner calm is the true mark of the man who has attained fulfillment. When the final click of destiny occurs, you will realize that you have not merely attained a fortune, you have inherited an empire of spirit. All that you sought, the wealth, the influence, the security, was never a prize to be captured by force. It was a reflection to be earned through the refinement of your own character. The laws of industry and the laws of the soul are one and the same. The man who has mastered himself, who has aligned his thought and action with the principle of service, finds that the world no longer resists him. He has become a part of the great design, a fellow worker with the infinite. Success, in its highest sense, is the ability to walk through life with a calm heart and a clear eye, knowing that you have contributed more to the world than you have taken from it. I have sat in the councils of the powerful and walked among the laborers of the mills, and I tell you the only lasting joy is found in the consciousness of a life well lived. Wealth is a responsibility, a sacred trust to be used for the elevation of our fellow man. As you stand now at the summit of your own breakthrough, remember that your true greatness will be measured by the wisdom with which you distribute the fruits of your labor. Do not fear the responsibilities that come with your new standing. You have been prepared in the furnace of delay and the silence of the cellar. You possess the capital of character, which no panic can deplete. Your path forward is one of expansion and stewardship. Live simply, act justly, and give generously. Let your life be a testament to the fact that the highest success is compatible with the highest honor. The empire of business is open to every man who has the courage to decide, the discipline to align, and the faith to persist until the very end. I leave you with this final thought. The man who dies rich in spirit, having served his generation with all the power at his command, is the only truly successful man. The gold may fade, and the monuments may crumble, but the influence of a noble character is immortal. You have heard the signal. You have felt the alignment. Now go forth and build, not merely for yourself, but for the ages. The law is with you. The path is clear. The future belongs to the man who knows that within him lies the power to shape the world.